It's that time again. It's pre-release weekend for the brand new set, Paradox Rift.
And we're heading on down to G3 Western Supermare to go and battle in the first pre-release of Paradox Rift. But first, let's make sure we're ready. We got the bats.
Check.
Have we got the damage counters?
Check.
Have we got the camera?
Check.
So let's all go on down and action.
So we made our way down to G3 Toys, where I helped run our official local Pokemon group, and very soon we'll be running our very first League Challenge on the 12th of November, which I can't wait for. But today I'm here to help run this pre-release event, and with people already here and eager to start, I opened up and gave out a pre-release kit to everyone and gave a quick rundown of all the rules.
You're going to get half an hour to construct your deck. After that, we're going to do a best of 1, 3 rounds, and then at the end of the tournament, you'll get your 3 extra packs. So, begin!
And now it's time to open our boxes and see what we had to work with. And both me and Emily got the same promo, Aegislash. After looking through the 40 card deck, it seems I had Aegislash teaming up with the Espathra, and was really happy to see the Xatu to help with the energy attachments and drawing cards, along with plenty of supporters and a rare candy. Now let's open up these packs and see what cards Paradox Rift has to offer. Even better. I've got some news.
Wow, that's the first time I've seen one of these for a long time. Technical machines. I got hit in this one, so.
So nothing massive to shout about in the opening, but we did manage to pull an Aegislash EX to go with the full package of the Aegislash that we're running with the promo, and managing to pull probably a few extra trainers and the extra Honage and Doublade. So let's see what we can build.
I've been looking forward to this set so much, so I'm going straight into those packs and we'll check out the deck a little bit later on. Oh, that's handy actually. Wow, that's the first time I've seen one of these for a long time. Technical machines. Well, I ruined what I got hit in this one, so it's alright. Oh, nice. That's a nice. Done. now it's time to finally see what my Aegislash pre-release deck has to offer. So with John's Aegislash teaming up with Sparta, I found out that my Aegislash is teaming up with Glossopod, which is really nice to see that not everyone gets the same pre-release deck. I have plenty of Aegislashes, Wimpods, and an Iron Bundle, which has a really cool ability. We have Bill's Transfer, Jock, Larry, and Nimona. It was also nice to see the new trainer Riker, and I do have a Nestball Youngster and Rare Candy, which will come in super handy.
It was great to see everyone having so much fun and showing off all their amazing pulls as they built their decks. But now it's time to show off what we would be playing in today's tournament. So I haven't made many changes to the original deck provided, but I did manage to add more cards that I feel will continue the main strategy of the deck. The 2 of Aegislash is one of the main attackers of the deck, and for 1 steel energy, 1 colorless energy, dealing 120 damage, and has a great ability, Mysterious Shield, which prevents all damage done from EX and V Pokemon, which I'm sure is going to come up at one point or another. Also playing the 1 Aegislash EX, which I was super lucky to be able to pull out my packs, being a very thick 330 HP with 2 very great attacks for very cheap energy costs, which I'm sure is going to help me take out other EX Pokemon that people are playing. Moving on to the Espathra, which has 120 HP and a very nice ability, Stance, which reads, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may prevent all damage from and effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon until the end of your opponent's next turn. This is great for stalling a turn if needed, as I won't take any damage at all. And the Xatu I won't be using as an attacker, but it shines more as a supporter Pokemon thanks to its Clairvoyant Sense ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. If you do, draw 2 cards. This is the same ability as the Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX Underworld Door ability. I feel confident with my trainer lineup as I have a nice amount of draw power with 2 Youngster and 2 Rika, but unfortunately no Nest Balls or Ultra Balls, but the deck did come with 2 Jacques and Messagoza for searching, but not forgetting the single Rare Candy, which I was very happy to see, which I think will come up hopefully in every game. The 1 copy of Tulip for the Espathras, and I added in a copy of Counter Capture, which is basically an item version of Boss's Orders if you have more prizes than your opponent. And the TM model Evolution, which can be used as a replacement for your normal attack, and basically it evolves 2 of your benched Pokemon. Keeping as many energies as possible so I could see a steady amount of them throughout the game with 6 Steel energies and 7 Psychic energies. All in all, very happy to see how I do and keeping my fingers crossed.
I decided to keep the main structure of my deck with the Glossopod and Aegislash. With Wimpod only being a stage 1 evolution line, this would make it really easy to quickly evolve and start getting the hits in, especially with 130 damage with Glossopod's Waterfall move. It was also very handy I got a Rare Candy to make evolving into Aegislash a lot faster. I also kept an Iron Bundle in purely for its ability Ice Blower, which acts very similar to a boss's order, but my opponent gets to choose which Pokemon they switch out with their active Pokemon. And with pulling the Hoopy EX, I needed a backup plan in case I went up against any hard-hitting Pokemon. So the Energy Crush move meant I could do 50 damage for every energy card attached to all my opponent's Pokemon. Overall, I'm hoping Aegislash's move, Mysterious Shield, will help bring me to victory as it prevents all damage done to it by an EX or V Pokemon. This will mean any of my opponents will have to chip away with just their standard Pokemon instead. Going through my trainer cards, I now have plenty of search and draw power from each of my supporters, including the new cards Bill's Transfer, Riker and Larry. Bill is especially great for potentially finding all the Pokemon I need in a single move by looking at the top 8 cards of my deck and adding any Pokemon I find there. Having a couple classics like Nestball and Rare Candy are always beneficial in gameplay. I also popped in the new Medical Energy and Technical Machine because I really want to test out these new trainer cards to see if any of them have got any benefits to my competitive decks in the near future. And finally, moving on to the energy cards, I decided to keep 5 Water Energies and 8 Steel Energies, but I've also added in those 3 Dark Energies like I explained for the Hooper. So hopefully this is enough balance to keep seeing those energy cards when I need them most, especially to attach to Glossopod and Aegislash. Now all the cards in play, let's see if my deck is worthy enough to get me far in today's pre-release.
My first opponent was playing this cool Glycopod Armor Rouge deck, so I had to play with care as my Aegislash was weak to fire. I lost the dice roll and was made to go first, but looking at my opening hand, I simply passed. My opponent had a much better hand, attaching the TM Evolution tool and an energy to his active and using them to evolve 2 of his benched Pokemon. Now I had an Armor Rouge and Glycopod glaring at me from the bench. But now I could use supporters, and activating Jacques to find 2 different Aegislashes and evolving some Pokemon, I just needed to find energies. The next few turns were spent powering up our Pokemon until I was able to take a knockout and claim the first prize. The game was close and speeding up, with my opponent knocking out my Aegislash, then I would retaliate by knocking out his Glycopod, but now the big guns came in, and he had everything he needed to power this cannon up, dealing 40 plus 40 for every fire energy attached to itself for a whopping 320 damage because of weakness. I couldn't bring up the Aegislash EX as that would lose me the game, but my opponent continued dominating and taking his third prize. I was lucky to evolve my Flittle into a Sparfra, and with its ability Stance, knowing he had no way to remove it from the active spot, I was now safe from damage for a turn. In my next turn, I was able to use the item card Counter Capture to boss up the Iron Hands and removing the threat of the Armor Rouge, bringing up the Aegislash EX safely and dealing 140 damage. The Iron Hands needed 4 energies to retreat, and with a water energy attached, it only had 3. So used Arm Press for 160 damage, but the game was mine as I swung for the final bit of damage, giving me the victory for game 1.
Going into my first game, I was up against my friend Dan, and we both started off with 1 card each, my Honage against his Flittle. After the first couple goes, Dan was fortunate enough to be able to search, evolve his Flittle, and attach enough energy cards to his Espartha before taking down my Honage before it even stood a chance. I did have another Honage on my bench, so I've put down Larry to try and dig for some Aegislashes, but unfortunately flipped into Tails, which meant I could only look for a basic Pokemon, so I went with Iron Bundle and put it straight onto my bench. I was able to get my second Honage into the attack position and evolve it into Doublade, to then use the move Sword Dance, but I stupidly decided to swap it out for the Hooper EX in the next turn for some reason. Maybe fear of it being knocked out by my opponent's Pokemon, who knows, but I knew I'd made an epic mistake. The reason being, I didn't realise Hooper was weak to Psychic and got hit with 140 by Espartha. I tried to use Iron Bundle's ability to use Hyper Blower to force Stan to swap out his Pokemon, but he chose Magby, which had 0 retreat cost, meaning that he was able to bring back up the Espartha and in his next turn take down my Hooper for a double prize win. This battle was not looking great for my side. Dan was having all the good luck and I just wasn't pulling into what I needed. Knowing this could be my last move, I didn't pull into anything I needed. So with a deep breath, Dan took out my Doublade and won the game against us. Well done, mate. A great first battle.
Unfortunately, I had some issues with the recording of Game 2, so I don't really have any footage from that. And the footage playing in the background is a friendly game we had afterwards, but here's basically a rundown of what happened.
I need a sword.
Computer says nah.
Yeah, basically I didn't find a single Honage the entire game, and was really relying on the Espartha and Xatu as attackers, which didn't really work out in my favour, and was picked apart very quickly, ending in a loss for me. Better luck next time.
My second battle was against my friend Lewis, and we both started off facing each other with our own Wimpods. With Wimpod in the active spot, I was able to put Honage onto the bench, and in my later turn play Bill's Transfer. This allowed me to look at the top 8 cards of my deck to add any number of Pokemon I find there. How many did I end up finding, you ask? 1. I found only 1 Pokemon and a whole lot of energy cards, but having 1 Pokemon was better than nothing, so onto the bench it went. Lewis was able to evolve into his Glossopod before I could, and began evolving and adding more Pokemon to his bench. I was able to stall using Wimpod's Hide move with a successful coin toss, and not take any damage in my next turn. It didn't hold him off for long though, as Lewis's Glossopod eventually took down my Wimpod for his first prize card. I was able to hunt down Aegislash and Glossopod using my Jacques trainer card, but I had to retreat the Honage because I hadn't got any Rare Candies or Doublades yet into my hand and didn't want to risk losing the Pokemon. With both of us having another set of Glossopods on the bench, it was a fierce battle to decide whose Glossopod would champion, and mine came through, taking out his Glossopod and also one of his Durants. However, this was the end of the line for my Glossopod, as Lewis then brought up his Armor Rouge EX and finally took it down to gain his next prize card. Aegislash finally made its debut appearance onto the battlefield. Armor Rouge's EX effect, Crimson Armor, protects itself from 8 damage by my Pokemon for its first turn. After a fierce back and forth battle, eventually the Armor Rouge EX succumbed to the Aegislash as the Mysterious Shield was just too strong. Well done, Lewis, for a great game, and thanks you for putting up such a good fight.
After losing every dice roll, my opponent opted to go second, starting out with a Honedge and Natu against his single Chi-Yu. I was able to bench a Flittle and attach an Energy, which was more than I was able to do in the 2 previous games, but my opponent must have had a dead hand as he used Parasol Lady to draw a fresh new hand of 8 cards and then place 2 more Pokemon on his bench. I felt I was making good progress to build up my Pokemon and starting to chip away at his, but this was short-lived, as he knocked out my Doublade and I just wasn't drawing into any other Honedge to start building up another attacker. After being made to retreat my Espathra and losing another Pokemon, I resorted to trying to take a knockout with the Espathra for my first prize. But this was as good as it got for me, as my opponent capitalised on my lack of attackers and easily taking the win.
And here we are, it was time for the final battle against my third opponent. We both quickly added several Pokemon to our benches and started adding energies where we could. I was fortunate enough to get to an Aegislash and a rare candy early on in game, which led to a very swift evolution. After attaching the second energy to Aegislash, I was able to knock out his Wimpod for the first prize card, and then later on I took out his Honedge for my second prize. My opponent did try really hard to dig for as many electric energies for his iron hands as possible, and unfortunately my Aegislash was able to chip away at the HP and eventually taking down the EX card for the double prize win and the finale. This was a very quick battle, but well done to my opponent for doing their best to put up a great defense against my Pokemon.
With the last of the games finishing up, all that was left to do was to hand out everyone's free extra packs.
In 6th place, me.
Woo!
Oh, thank you. In 5th place, Ruby.
Yay! Well done, Ruby!
In 4th place, Emily.
Woo!
Woo!
Gimme! Da! Yeah!
We were so excited to get into these packs, but unfortunately we didn't really pull anything of note, but we were happy nonetheless, and I especially couldn't wait to start testing out these new cards in other decks, especially my Chien-Pao. The atmosphere was buzzing as everyone showed off their new cards, and this is why I believe pre-release is the best time of the year. A huge thank you to G3 for hosting the event. Links to their website will be in the description below, and if you enjoyed this, here's another pre-release video we've done. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.